Normally, I only share this with friends because unfortunately they've been through the same. And sometimes I feel like I'm overthinking or maybe I'm crazy and they provide validation like, no, you're not crazy. No, you're not overthinking. And yeah, what happened to you is messed up. But I no longer need their validation because I know what I've been through is messed up. And this story is a hard story to tell, but it's important. So my name is Alana Shelton, and this is my story on police discrimination. The first situation that I can remember was in 2013. I was living in Frankfort, Kentucky, and going to school at Kentucky State University, which is an HBCU, a historically Black college. I just moved off campus and into my first apartment ever. I was finally able to bring my car to school, so I was driving around everywhere, feeling so free. And one day, a friend and I decided to go to a park that was down the street from my apartment. We just wanted to go on a quick walk and take my dog for a walk. And we go to the park and we pull into a spot and we're getting our stuff out of the car. And all of a sudden, a police car backs into a spot close to mine. And at first I didn't think anything of it. I was just kind of annoyed because I have this pet peeve where I'm at the gym and the place is empty, no one else is around, and all of a sudden someone gets on the treadmill right next to you. It's just like, what are you doing in my personal space? But again, I didn't think anything of it. So we started our walk, and all of a sudden I get this feeling in my stomach that I'm being watched. And I look over the car and I can't tell in that moment, but I can feel that he is looking at me. So I asked my friend, like, hey, are you ready to go? Because I started to feel really uncomfortable. So we get in the car and we start heading to the exit, and so did the police officer. And I turned left out of the park, and so did the police officer. And he followed me all the way home. And he didn't leave until I got into my apartment. And I went from feeling so free to an animal that was being preyed. And like I said, I went to an HBCU. So there's a bunch of kids like me that was going through the same thing. And there's another situation that I can remember where I'll just be driving down the street and I'll make eye contact with the officer that's coming my way. And he'll do a U-turn in the middle of the street just to follow behind me. And again, it was just another feeling of prey. And never once did I get pulled over or did they actually stop me. It was just me being followed. And yeah, those situations are messed up, but they're nothing compared to what I experienced last year alone. In September 2020, I was visiting a friend in Michigan and I was heading back home to Indianapolis. And in the distance, because of the situations I've been in, I'm a pro at spotting this. I saw a police officer in this little nook. And I immediately slow all the way down and get into the right lane. And my exit was coming up and I debated even taking my exit because I knew it would be suspicious, like I'm trying to get away. But it was either take the exit or be lost in Ohio. So I took the exit. And as soon as I took the exit, the officer turned on his lights and pulled me over. And he said the reason why he pulled me over is because I was driving erratically, which is probably because of the turn. And then also, he said I didn't use my turn signal when he pulled me over. And so he began to ask me questions like, have you been drinking? And I told him no, because it's 10 a.m. I'm 2 hours into a 4-hour drive, so when would I find the time? And he said he needed to do a sobriety check on me and he needed to search my vehicle. And I knew that this wasn't proper protocol because I wasn't drinking, but I still complied anyway. And when I get out of the car, I noticed that there's 2 other police cars behind his. And at this time, I began to panic. And he told me to sit in the back of his police car and he began to read me my rights. And I remember being so terrified, just feeling like a criminal. And he asked me, because I was crying hysterically at this point, why I'm so hysterical. Is there something in the vehicle that he needs to be worried about? And I snapped at this point. I told him, no, there's nothing in my car. Have you not been watching the news? There's 3 of you and 1 of me. How do you expect me to act? And he tried to reassure me by saying, no, I promise you, I'm a cool cop. Don't I look like a cool cop? I remember telling him no, because he didn't. But he continued to search through my car. They didn't end up finding anything, of course, and they let me go. But I still had that feeling of terror. And I was thinking, okay, this has to be the last thing for the year. There's no way that something else like this could happen to me. And 2 weeks later, I'm on a trip with my friends in LA, and we stop at this grocery store, and they get out of the car. I stay in the car because I knew it was going to be a quick trip. And they get out of the car. We start to discuss plans of what we're about to do next and where we're about to go. And all of a sudden, these officers pull up, and they begin asking us questions about our vehicle, because we rented this really nice Mercedes Benz. It was beautiful. And they started asking us questions like, where did it come from? And whose car is this? And questions like that. Like, God forbid, Black people obtaining luxury vehicles legally. And so I showed him the paperwork, showed him that it's from a legit rental site. I handed him my license. And while that officer was looking at my information, the other officer began to have a conversation with us and was saying, yeah, there's gang activity in progress down the street, so we just have to make sure everything's good to go around here. And my friend asked the question that we were all thinking, like, so this takes priority over the gang activity that's going on down the street? And the officer starts to get mad and defensive and said, what don't you understand about this situation? Do I need to speak slower for you all? And in that moment, we just stopped talking, and I never felt more powerless. Unfortunately, the experiences don't end there. I know it won't be the last, and I'm terrified because the situations keep getting worse. And all I was doing was everyday things, like going to the park with a friend and traveling to visit a friend or hang out with friends out of town, just everyday things that everybody does, things that I can no longer do without looking over my shoulder. And with me being so terrified in situations that call for police, I'm terrified to call because I don't want to go from victim to suspect like we've seen many times before. And I'm tired of feeling powerless, which is why I will continue to share. And I'm sharing because these things happened to my grandparents and they're still happening. And I want your help to change this for my future children. And as Desmond Tutu said it best, if you're neutral in the situation of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor.